Well, thank you for joining me on this question in exercise 2M. I'm going to be looking at part B, the second part, which says the function of x is the absolute of x plus 1. The g of x is the function square root of x squared minus 4. Now, if we looked in the graphical sense, if you know what the function of x looks like, then you would know that it's an absolute. X plus 1 is, it would be a straight line going through 1, going down here to -1, but instead of continuing here, that would be the y equals x plus 1 line. We would reflect it because it's the absolute, so it reflects here. And so you see that the domain of f of x, the domain of x is the set, we could say the set of real numbers, but the range of f is the set of all real numbers such that y is greater than or equal to 0. So we don't have any negatives in our range. So if we were to take f of g and put g into the f function, well, we're actually putting the y values. So the y values are the of g are the x values, or the domain of used of f. So let's have a look at the g function. The domain of g function, if you know the graph, have a look at the graph. And it's the square root of x squared minus 4. Now, x squared minus 4, you can't have a square root of a negative number. Now, x squared minus 4, just extend that down a bit to -4. There is x squared minus 4 is the x squared subtract 4. But when you get the square root, you can't get the square root. Here is 2. And here is -2. So the thing is, between -2 and +2, they're all negatives. And so you cannot get the square root of negative. So you can't get the square root of the functions here. But if you substitute 2, get the square root of these values, you end up with that function, because the square root of that is 0, the square root of that value is this value, the square root, and so we end up with this function here, and we also end up with that function there. That restricts our domain of g. It sort of restricts our domain of g from 2 and anything bigger than the absolute of 2. So it is the set of real numbers such that x is greater than the absolute of I'll just put here x can be less than -2 or equal to, or x can be greater than or +2. Now, therefore, the range of f is from 0 and up. So we want to substitute any values from 0 and up, only positive numbers. Right? So we're only going to substitute positive numbers into this function over here. which means the only values that we're going to be using are these values from 0 and above, which means the range will start at 1 and above. So we've got enough to answer the question here. The domain of f of g is the set of x's being real numbers such that x is less than or equal to -2 or x is greater than or equal to +2, and the range of f of g are the y values of the real numbers such that y starts at 1 and it never is less than 1. Well, I hope that this has helped. Until next time, stay happy.